You are listening to the Love Unplugged podcast, episode 7. Today's episode is all about a real-life love story. Through a love for food and each other, my guests share how they came to create a successful catering company together, but also how they balance the demands of being successful entrepreneurs with a marriage while raising 2 lovely children. Let's hear how they do it. You are listening to Love Unplugged, a podcast focused on love in all its forms. I'm your host, Jessica Frigon, hopeful romantic and founder of Revue Blanc. I've found that too often love is set aside or taken for granted, and we tend to forget how to care for ourselves and our relationships in the day-to-day chaos. So let's slow down, tune in, and begin our journey of rediscovering love. From honest heart-to-heart conversations with real couples and knowledgeable guests, to deep dive reviews of new products and services that will help you feel beautiful inside and out. If you're looking for relatable advice or wanting to be inspired by real life love stories, you've come to the right place. Without further ado, let's get to it. All right, I am here with Carly and Mark Pruger, entrepreneurs, owners of White Table Catering Co., but more importantly, a lovely couple who have been married and working together for a bit now. So we're going to learn all about their love story and how they balance working together and nurturing the relationship. So let's get to it. Welcome, Carly and Mark. I am so honored to have you as my guests, and I'm so excited to learn all about your love story and your careers. But before we start, for those that don't know you yet, I would love for you to share a little bit of who you are.
Well, thank you for having us here. We're White Table Catering, and we do large events, mostly weddings and galas, and we also do all of the catering for airside event spaces.
We have 2 little boys, Rylan and Cole, 3 years old and 5 years old. So when we're not busy at work, we're busy at home.
I just saw one of them today and they're adorable. All right, so let's start at the beginning. When and how did you guys meet?
Okay, well, I met Carly at church. I was working in the kitchen there. I had a job and I was the chef. And I saw Carly out in the lobby. And the first time I saw her, she literally took my breath away. I was like, that is the type of girl that I want to marry. Like, I wasn't even, it wasn't even about her necessarily, but I knew that she's the kind of girl that I would want to pursue. And then she ended up coming into the kitchen, and we started to hit it off from there.
Yeah, I was sick, and I guess I was always trying to sneak free food or something. So I came in there and asked if they had any soup because I wasn't feeling well. And Mark made me soup, which is kind of the key to my heart. And
Minestrone
soup. And yeah, that was kind of the beginning of everything.
How did you feel about it? So he knew he wanted to marry a girl like you. And what was your first impression of him?
Well, I mean, I thought he was hot, but I don't know. I don't even know. I wasn't really looking at that time, but things kind of it was summer, and in the summer is when I think things happen. So yeah, we
just became friends to start, and gradually over time
started hanging out. And
I like that, starting as friends and having it grow from there.
Yeah.
I always feel like the relationship, really the foundation is a friendship. I think you should be really good friends on top of everything else.
Mm-hmm. Totally
great. Yeah. Lots of day trips to the beach and that kind of thing. So yeah, we just enjoyed spending time together.
It's interesting because our friendship actually began in a place of work, because Carly worked there as well. And she was working in kids ministry, and I was working in the kitchen. So we've always kind of had that friendship around working together.
Wow. That's actually really interesting. It's probably why you guys work so well together now.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Now I want to hear about the proposal. So who proposed and how did you do it?
Well, you want to tell a story about the location?
Oh, right. Okay. So I grew up in Burnaby, and I spent a lot of time around the Deer Lake area. Mm-hmm. And there's this old house that not a lot of people know about, actually, right by the boat launch, on the lake. And I knew about it because my mom worked for the city, like in the parks department, basically. And so she had told me that this house was actually public property, even though it looks like a private residence. And so she's like, yeah, basically anyone can hang out in these gardens. And so I would go there and just hang out, read a book or whatever. So I started bringing Mark there. And we would have like picnics and just walk through the gardens, like on our way to the lake and that kind of stuff. And I said to him, when I get married, like, I would love to have my wedding ceremony here. Like, I just love this house. I love how it's just special and unique, and I love historic buildings. Mm-hmm. So, I'm like, I would just get everyone to stand on this big staircase, and I would like get married at the foot of it and do it like not really traditional. And I just had this whole grand plan. And so I'm like, I don't know if they would let us do weddings here, but I would love to get married here.
So knowing a bit about Carly, because the other thing that she did at the church was big productions. So she used to sing and act in these big theatrical productions. And so knowing that she was into the story behind things and music especially, she's very gifted with music. I had a friend set up some big speakers behind the house. And so when we walked down towards the house, we had this music just going across the lake. And it was a song that we eventually got married to. And so we walked up the stairs right in front of the house, and I got down on one knee and asked her. And she didn't know that I also had a friend as a photographer taking pictures of the whole sequence. And I also had a ring that her dad made because her dad's a jeweler. And so it was a custom made ring that I knew she'd like. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think so.
A special day. Yeah. And then we ended up getting married there. So yeah, that place is still really special.
That sounds so beautiful. Sounds like he nailed it.
He nailed it. Yeah, the sentiment was definitely there, which is totally like what I care about. So yeah.
This was before everyone was getting engaged with helicopters and all sorts of production. So it was a big effort at the time for sure.
I like the intimate moments and stuff like that. And it doesn't need to be a huge production all the time. Really, it's about the moment between you guys and that important question that you were asking. And I love how you got a photographer to photograph that. I think that's super important because as a girl, as soon as you get down, like your mind just kind of like it's totally outside of your body and you just kind of lose sight as to kind of what's going on. It's just really overwhelming. So to have photographs to be able to look back on and to see everything that happened, I think that's so wonderful.
And Mark and I, like, we really value photography. Like, we do a lot of photo shoots, whether it's like for the business or like with our family. Like, we are constantly taking photos, but it's just because we really want to remember the moments. And I know there's like some people think, oh, it's better to remember the moment like by not taking photos. But I found like just with my personality, like I forget things unless I have something like to document it. And we actually often will go back and look at photos together, whether it's like on our Google Drive or in our albums that we've printed of our digital photos and just kind of relive those moments. So having those photos was a huge part of it. And we actually ended up doing an engagement shoot there, like after that. So yeah, it was like perfect. So we did our shoot at the house too.
I gotta look up this house.
Yeah, well, I don't know, like it's kind of run down now, but it was so beautiful at the time.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. Yeah.
So aside from the house, because I know how special that is to you, what else do you remember from your wedding day?
Oh, yes.
Okay, honestly, like we're in the wedding industry, and so obviously we really value like the food and the details of the day. I mean, that's what we do as a part of our business is help organize the details, like the rentals and the floor plan and all that kind of stuff, which we'll talk about. But for me, honestly, the moments of that day are what I remember and what I cherish about that day. It's like the moment I had with my dad before he walked me down the aisle and just like that special moment we took like a selfie and it was just so special. And then the moment that Mark and I first saw our reception room and we actually entered in, probably comes with that whole grand entrance thing that I love. We entered into the room and went straight into our first dance in the middle of the room. And that was one of my favorite moments. And actually leaving was one of our favorite moments when we were like waving goodbye and we just saw everyone that we loved, like just because most people stayed till the end and they were just so happy. It was like this really special moment. The moments for me are what I cherish the most about the day, even though I loved the details and I really cared about the details of that day. But it's those moments that I probably remember and love the most of all. And obviously the ceremony at that special house. Yeah.
Just things for me is the in-between moments, especially the private moments between you and I. Like, there's a boat launch there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we took a boat out afterwards and we had some pictures, but it was just some time between us to kind of reflect on what just happened. And everyone else was now moving on to the reception, but we were able to kind of take that in. So that was a really special moment. Yeah.
And that's part of why, like, we want to take care of details for people, because we want them to enjoy the moments. We don't want them to have to worry about the day, because at the end of the day, the details and everything that came together, like, that's beautiful and great, and it represents you as a couple. But I really just want the people that we're working with, like, we care about them. We care about this day for them and this moment that they're having together to start their marriage. And we want them to just be able to really enjoy it and have those special moments. Because at the end of the day, those are the things that, from our experience, are what make it really special.
Absolutely.
I love that you guys took the time to step away together and have like one-on-one time while your guests were kind of moving on to the next stage. I think a lot of couples should do that because you talk to many brides and grooms and are like, I don't remember anything from the day. I don't even know if I ate.
Right.
And this is something that they've been working to for quite some time. They put a lot of money into this. It's like a really important day. I think you should kind of step away, reset, and just have some quality time together.
Yes.
So I like that.
Yeah. That's why it's, as Carly mentioned, super important to trust the team so that you don't have to get into the details on the day of and you can really soak in those moments.
Yeah, pick the right team. It's very important.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk about this business you have together. So how did you come to creating White Table Catering, and how did you come to actually working together on it?
That's a great question. Okay, so I'm a chef by trade. I'm a Red Seal chef. And often, so throughout the times that I was managing kitchens, I would often cater from those kitchens. And at that point, it was more of a on the side, on top of the kitchen sort of scenario. And there was a couple of catering companies that I started and changed as the brands went on and it evolved. But at one point, Carly and I were in Vegas and we were just dreaming. It's something that we like to do. We just talk about our future and we come up with ideas. And I was like,
We've been married for probably like 4 years, I think.
Yeah, we're probably going 4 years. And at that point, we were just talking, hey, why don't you come on board with me? And we'll do like this catering company. We started dreaming about like it being about weddings and we were coming up with names. And Carly said like, she'll come on board, but there was kind of a caveat. She's like, well, we're going to have to change this brand. And I'm coming to it with maybe a more of a masculine perspective. And Carly had all these great ideas about branding. She's so good at marketing. So she kind of took that over and we restarted with White Table Catering, rebranded. And what you see now is the brand is coming out of Carly's head mostly. She directs all that creative.
Yeah, I mean, White Table Catering came from Mark and I's belief in marriage and our love of weddings and this industry. And I used to do event planning. So the love of that, not that we strictly do weddings, but weddings is our focus. It's what we love to do. It's what we love to be a part of. And so we wanted to create a brand that represented that showed like we are a catering company, but we're a catering company that loves weddings, that loves to be a part of weddings. So that's kind of how that started. We also are obviously a family. We have little kids. We had, I think, only Rylan at the time because once my table was going, then we had Cole. And so we also wanted to create it a little bit as like a lifestyle brand as well, because we wanted it to be authentic to who we are, which is like a couple that's married that wants to do weddings, but also has a family. And so kind of bringing that whole like how we live our life and our love for food and healthy food and fresh food and beautiful food and entertaining, as well as being a part of people's special day. So it kind of merged all that together.
Yeah. I mean, we enjoy being around each other. We enjoy the working environment together. And like, as Carly mentioned, it does blend into our lifestyle. So we love to travel. And one of our favorite things, Carly finds all these great places to try things, and we'll go out and we'll eat, and we'll go to a vegan restaurant, or we'll go to an ice cream shop, and we'll just try all these flavors, and we'll get super inspired, and we just have a lot of fun doing that. So it really kind of blends into what our passions are, and that comes out in our business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were just in Paris for our anniversary on this spontaneous trip with the first time away from our kids since Cole was born. So it was amazing. But whenever we travel, whether we go to LA every year for sure for a lot of business research, but also for fun with our kids. And then when we went to Paris, like we come home with all these ideas that we totally integrate into our business and into our menus. And so we are definitely merging it all together.
You definitely get that vibe from your Instagram. Very kind of family and just a lot of passion and love. And it's just this beautiful feed, honestly. Thank you. It makes me very hungry going through it.
Well, now we're so blessed because we have such an incredible team as well. And so our team is obviously like a huge part of our family, basically. So
that's been some of the most fun is, you have people join your team and they have all these hidden talents, and we have such a talented team, and you might hire them for one thing, and then all of a sudden you learn they're incredibly gifted at this, and their job description grows and the company grows because of it. And it's this, because everyone's so passionate about vision, it just grows around the people that are part of it, and we have a really strong team. And I think that's part of what creates a family style atmosphere in our company. And I think that comes through in the service. And people often say, your servers are all smiling and your kitchen staff are like having fun together and focused. And it's because like they just do that naturally. Like everybody wants to be a part of it. Everyone's treating each other well. Like everyone's having fun. Everyone's caring about the final outcome and the details. And that's just so rewarding.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a great team culture.
You have a really good team culture.
Yeah. It's hard to find in a lot of companies, so it's good that you've gotten to a place where you can have that.
That's a huge priority for us.
Yeah. So since you guys go around and try all these restaurants, do you ever share kind of what restaurants you found and what dishes to try? And
okay, so this is like more of a time issue probably for me, because I usually story when we're away as much as I can on our white table feed. I don't know if people are like sick of us, but I definitely share more about when we're traveling, specifically like on my personal feed. But I really, really would love to start like a food travel blog, or maybe somehow integrate it onto the white table blog. It just hasn't become probably my priority yet. Definitely have a lot of photos of everything we could use, but it's more just like the timing right now, probably. But maybe down the road, I try to share what we find.
You might have to follow your personal account then.
Yeah,
I was looking for recommendations.
I have lists on my phone that I often send out to people that ask. But yeah, no, I want to. It's like a goal on my personal / business goals, I guess.
Yeah, Carly's a lot of fun to travel with. I mean, we'll jump into a city and she'll have already found all the greatest places to look at. And so it's a pretty tasty trip.
Planner in her.
Yeah, she's an excellent planner. And
our kids travel well. Like we don't always bring them, but for the most part we do. And they definitely eat well now.
They eat really good. Our 3-year-old's like, I want a croissant.
Oh my. That's awesome. So how is it really working with your spouse?
Do you want to answer first?
That's a great question. This is a great marriage. I think the business and everything is working really well. I knew this question would come up, and I don't want to overstep like that. Often it's difficult when you have a stressful business and you have kids. And I think everyone in the same position, especially with kids being married, encounter the same challenges, like whether it's stress, lack of sleep, a busy taxi schedule. I mean, all those things, especially if all those things happen at one time, can affect a relationship. But I think that given Carly and I both have the same outlook on it, is that when we hit those times where they're challenging, we just push through and we try to stay focused on the end game. And often through learning through those challenges, you become stronger in your business and stronger in your marriage, and you learn more about your kids. And so I think, overall, like, I'm very happy with our decision to do business together and be married. And so, it's working well.
Yeah, I think like no matter who you work with, there's like probably good days and harder days. Mark and I do work at not always bringing our work home. However, because we own the business, like it's just naturally always with us. Like we're always thinking about it and always talking about it. But because our business is something we just love to do so much, we are okay with talking about it for the most part. If there are stressful things that come up within the business, then sometimes, like we need to table it, like when we get home, and talk about it again in the office the next day. Or Mark and I have started going for early morning meetings together just alone before we go into the office with the team, just to kind of catch up on like how we're doing, kind of not talk about the business at first, and then kind of get into, okay, so what things do we need to talk about before we like go in and meet with the team? And that's kind of when some of those things are brought up and we talk them through. But it's a new start of the day where I think sometimes when we're bringing these things that might be stressful home with us at the end of the day, and then the kids are here and we want to make sure we have time with them, and that can be stressful for sure. I probably reach my limit of what I can handle with bringing that kind of heavy stuff home than Mark does. Quicker, I reach my limit quicker. But I think we've like found some balance of when to deal with certain things and when to like let's cut that off. But working together has brought us so many amazing opportunities, like traveling together and both going into a trip with the same like curiosity and wants and needs, where I found like when we were traveling and we weren't like in the same industry together, we would want to do completely different things. We're now like, we literally just want to do the same thing the whole time. It's
kind of scary. We're like the same person.
Now we are. So I find like it's actually led to like us being closer in a lot of ways and having a lot more in common, and wanting to do things kind of the same way because we're looking at things with the same perspective kind of, and with this common interest. So that's been really, really cool, and really, really fun.
Yes. I think like a lot of people ask us quite often, the question comes up like business, like, and you're married, like how does that work? That could be a really bad thing. Like, is that working for you? And I think like really, it just puts things to the extremes. So if there's like a communication, problem in your marriage, like, and you're together at work and at home, like that's going to be magnified. And so really like you're forced to figure that out because it's going to affect you at work and at home. And so it's the same problems, but just like put to the extremes. And so the decision is, well, we should figure that out. Or so any circumstance like that, it's really like I mentioned before, just kind of the outlook of, we're in this together, the business and marriage and family, and we're going to continue moving forward.
I think finding your own areas within the business is really important too, so that you really can have something that's yours. The big decisions, obviously, we like talk about them together, but Mark is very gifted at like running a business. Like that's what he listens to on podcasts for the most part. That's like what he's super interested in. I'm interested in running a business, but that is not like my necessarily like my gifting and what I want to talk about all the time. Like I'm like super into the like branding and marketing and creative things and bringing like fresh new things to the business and to the team. And I really care about our team. So I'm probably more gifted like in being like nurturing to our team and creating the environment and all those things. So I think also having like your different areas is really important too, because finding things that complement each other. Because I think you totally can run a business together, but probably having some things that you do together and some things that you do separate is a good trick.
And knowing your spouse. And that's like, you grow and you learn. And that's something I learned a lot about Carly. As she mentioned, I could talk about business like all day long and then jump in my car and listen to a podcast about business. And that's not going to work for Carly. Like there's going to be a point where it's like, I need a date. And then, we go have some fun. And I'm like, oh yeah, fun. So like,
I remember that.
Right. And then I love it too, but I'm not like, that's not the first thing on my mind. Like I really like to problem solve. And so I think being aware of your spouse's needs and knowing where those limits are and knowing that the priority ultimately is your marriage. Like the reason we do the business is for our family first. And also knowing that our customers and, our staff, like ultimately will have a better experience if Carly and I are in a good place and we're enjoying the business and everything's good at home. And so knowing that that's like our first priority is really important.
So given that you guys work together, you're married, you have children, how do you make sure that you guys actually have time apart to do your own thing and to take care of yourself on a whole bunch of different levels, like physical, emotional, mental?
Well, we don't get a lot of alone time, to be perfectly honest. But I would say like we're both not really introverts, so that probably helps. We're both definitely like to be busy. Like we're busy people. Mm-hmm. If we weren't doing this business, like we would be doing something else busy. And as soon as we have time to rest, we probably go somewhere. So because we like city vacations rather than like beach vacations. Like we're very busy people. However, I would say like Mark and I kind of have started another thing where we turn our phones off for the most part at 8:39. We have an alarm that goes off. So if we need to finish up something, like we know, like, okay. But for the most part, we try to turn our phones off at 9. And a lot of the time we end up spending that time together because that's kind of the point. But sometimes it just means we like are quiet and like do our own thing, like beside each other, like whatever it is, like reading a magazine or Mark, whatever, watches a show or whatever it is. That's kind of like our time either together or to do something kind of alongside each other, but for ourselves. Yeah, I think we both like driving alone too. So whenever we drive and commute, we both have things that we like to listen to. I love listening to podcasts. So does Mark. We listen to completely different podcasts for the most part. We both like How I Built This. But yeah, I think that helps too, having just that alone time. But honestly, when we're at home, I mean, our kids are here until they go to bed. So we don't get a lot of alone time right now. What do you think?
I love that alarm, by the way. It gives you permission. Like if you set that and then you don't feel guilty about it, because there's an endless amount of work that you can be doing. So you really do need to set boundaries. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all your points. When I was looking for a new car, Bluetooth was like the number one thing. That's my introverted time. I listen to a podcast. I'm listening to the podcast, but also the podcast will help me spin off into other areas that I start thinking about and dreaming about and solving other problems. And for me, that reorganizes my thoughts. That's my kind of, that's my sport. That's my downtime. That's what I enjoy. Mental, physical health, like for sure, making sure that I get 8 hours sleep. It makes a big difference for decisions and productivity. Always worth getting sleep, or even a nap in if you're a napper. I can get a nap in, and that's a reset button for me. And physical, like getting to the gym, makes a big difference on your mental game and your energy levels and your posture towards business problems for sure.
Yeah, I think for us, I know like our time with our kids is really busy, but it is restful. At the end of the day, like that is our reward, coming home and getting to spend time with them and traveling with them and doing fun things together as a family right now. As much as it's not necessarily alone time or restful, it is fulfilling in a different way. Yeah.
So how do you guys nurture your relationship? Like what tips would you guys have for other couples that need to put the focus back on them, so that they don't lose sight of the relationship.
Get a babysitter. Get a babysitter.
Oh yeah,
100%.
All the money.
like if Carly and I are hitting this time, we're like, oh, why do we feel so stressed? And I feel like we haven't connected. And we go downtown and we have a babysitter and we grab a coffee, and like 6 hours later, like we've talked about everything, and we're just like, wow, like I just feel so rejuvenated, and it's like everything is right again. And so you just really need that time, and to find something that you enjoy together and just connect.
Yeah, we have always used babysitters for the most part, so that we can go on dates and have some time alone. And it really has helped, I think, just the quality of our relationship, and also like the quality of our relationship with our kids too. Just being able to take a break every now and then when we need it. Obviously, having a babysitter that you trust and love is so important, because then when they're gone, you don't have to worry about it. So that's been like a huge thing. We're very blessed with who we have on our team to help us with that. And I think I would totally agree. Like once we have a date together to get away, whether it's in Fort Langley, which is really close to where we are, or we go downtown fairly often, as much as we can, then we come back and we feel like we're fresh for the next week. We're like ready to go. So I definitely agree.
And that's how we feel on vacations too. If we go on a vacation, like you go to relax, but we come back so energized with like 100 ideas, and we're reorganized, and just that time, it's a great investment.
Mm-hmm. So have you ever experienced difficult times in your relationships, and how, you don't have to get into specifics, obviously, but how did you guys get through them together?
Yeah.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we've been married next year 10 years, so I'd be lying to say we didn't have any hard times. I mean, it's two people living together all the time. But I think the main thing is like just staying focused on what's important and the long-term play. Like just focusing on the small problems and making them big. Like honestly, after a night of rest, like they're probably not going to be that big. And I find that when things are bigger, it's usually a lack of sleep, perspective, things like that. And sometimes there are learning opportunities. Like if we're hitting a wall and then I'm like, I hear something. She said, oh, that's how you're viewing this. Like I didn't realize that. This is what I've been doing. And then it opens up a whole new line of communication. And now I understand Carly better. And so, yeah, absolutely. We've had hard times, but they've all been growth opportunities if we have that perspective. And like, obviously not perfect. Like quite often I won't have that perspective. And so maybe it'll drag on, but the same goes for business, right? Like it's really pushing through those times where you're like, this is really tough right now. And you feel discouraged and you might feel like you're up against a wall, and it can have you down for a day or 2 days. And then, but you keep heading at it. And then you're like, boom, there's a solution. And usually you're stronger because of it. You're like, well, because of that hardship, we found this solution, and that now makes these 3 or 4 things better. And now the company is stronger for it. Or now the relationship's stronger because we've restructured how we do this. We now have a babysitter on Fridays, or whatever the solution may be. And then that's really encouraging moving forward rather than staying like within those things. Like really you have to be solution oriented, because just doing the same thing over and over again, like you're just going to keep hitting that wall. And that's where those moments to spend time and talk about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I think a couple lessons we've learned is to put your spouse first. And it sounds cliche, but honestly, like when you do that, and you put their needs first, like everything just kind of flows like better that way. As soon as I start thinking about myself before I think about what's best for Mark and the family, like things just I'm not happy because I'm not feeling satisfied, even though I think I'm going to be, because I'm putting myself first, and like Mark's disappointed, and it's just putting your spouse first. I mean, that's like what marriage is. And I think the other thing we've learned, and which Mark touched on, was not assuming the worst of each other, always assuming the best. And that, yeah, maybe they're having like an off day and they did something that you just like cannot understand or that really made you mad, but still assuming like the best of their heart. Yeah, often like when we're in a fight or whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's not where my heart was though. Like you're assuming the worst of me. Like that's not where my heart was at when I said that or did that or whatever. So I think that is helpful. And because we're around each other a lot, like we have to choose to do that. Or else, yeah, we'll bring it into the workplace or whatever. So I think those things. I think the other thing that's really important is having a really strong community that supports you. Whether it's friends or family or whatever it may be, we have a really strong group of friends that we're so blessed to have. And so those people are there for us when we are having hard times or when we're struggling as a family or struggling in our business or whatever it is, people that we can like talk to as well, like aside from each other, that are going to speak wisdom into our lives and really support us and love us, like no matter what. I think having that is so important because, especially people that are going to help you direct your life in the same direction you would want to go, but that kind of bring like a little bit of a new perspective because they're not in the problem. I think that's really important. We found that very important, especially once we've had kids, to just not feel like alone, like in doing life. So I think that would be like a huge part of what helps us on the day to day.
100%. Like people that have the same core values. And so we've actually met with the same group for like the last 10 years on every Tuesday or Wednesday night. And that is so supportive. And it's like almost comical when you're like, oh, I'm hitting this wall here. And then someone else says, yeah, I'm hitting that same wall. And the other person, I'm hitting that same wall. And I mean, like, for whatever reason, like I feel like most marriages all have the same issues. So it's like it relieves so much pressure to find out you're not the only person tackling this. This is like something everybody has to tackle. You're not like the only people that aren't perfect, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really really nice to have that outside support, and that's incredibly positive for us.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important for people to realize that marriage is a journey, and there's never an end point where everything's just going to be perfect. You just have to go day by day and just work together as a team and come through everything that happens, because you're going to go through like stages of life, seasons of marriage, all that stuff. So it's a long period of time.
You're two imperfect people coming together.
Exactly.
There's going to be problems no matter who it is. So yeah, I think marriage is a choice, and no matter who you're married to, there's going to be hard times and there's going to be amazing times. And so I think remembering those amazing times and just choosing to stick it through in the hard times is what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. All right. A last question. I want to know about this business of yours. So I know it's catering, but let's talk about all the services that you guys offer.
Okay. Well, we are a full service catering company. So what that means is we obviously provide the food. We provide all the serving staff. And our serving staff not only help have the food come out, we do like setup, we do tear down, we do like running the event, like with making sure everything's flowing, whether it's helping flip the room. We do the floor plans with, like, that's part of what comes with our services. We work with a lot of event planners, which we love. So sometimes that means they do the floor plan. Sometimes that means we do the floor plan. Like, we kind of just work together, but we're definitely in the details. We really care about the details. We like to know everything that's going on the day so that we can make it flow perfectly, because a lot of the time we're like the staff making it run. We also do all the rental coordination and the rentals. So we take care of all rentals. So we are the ones recommending like this flatware or this flatware, or we work with really big, large rental companies. And we also work with like boutique rental companies as well. And depending on our clients' needs. So we're involved in that. We're obviously do a lot to do with food. That's the whole premise of our company, aside from the event side of things. And so our food, we do kind of all different types of services. We do buffets, family style, and plated dinners. Our most popular style of service, I would say right now, is family style service. That's like one of our favorites. I just love the intimacy and the community, but at the same time, the community aspect of family style. And so I would say that's definitely a style of service that we really specialize in because we just do it so often. So that's kind of all the areas I think I touched on and all that we are part of.
And we mentioned that, I mentioned earlier that we do all the catering for airside event spaces at YXX Airport. However, we also do offsite. So the majority of what we've done in the past is offsite events, and we have a mobile kitchen. So it's a trailer that we pop up, these beautiful white tents with all of our commercial heating equipment, from generators to water lines to ovens and warming cabinets and tables. And what that does is it allows us to have a restaurant-like experience in the middle of a field, wherever it is. And so it controls the quality of our food. And so that's something that's really important to us, instead of transporting hot, let's say, and something steaming in Canberra. So everything has always been for us providing a consistent high-end experience and planning straight through the wedding process to add the most value to our clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so whether our food is at our home venue at Airside or whether our food is offsite, even at venues like Pipe Shop in North Van, where it's a building inside, not a field, we'll still bring up our pop-up kitchen and do it. And no matter where we end up, our food quality is the exact same every time. So like it's out of our home kitchen. So that's kind of what we do. Might see the mobile kitchen driving by.
I'll be like, stop, I'm hungry. All right. So if anybody wants to learn more about you and your company, where can they find you?
You can find us on our website at www.whitetablecatering.com. Instagram, we are very active on Instagram. Our handle is at White Table Catering Co. At White Table Catering. One of those. And the food that's on our feed is the food that you get on your day. So we also have a blog, which we update a lot with, whether it's our recipes for certain things or whether it is events we've done, galas or weddings, that will be on there. So you can get a good feel of some different venues and some different events that we've been a part of, a lot of weddings. And then we're on Pinterest as well. We're pretty big Pinterest following, I guess. And then our new venture is our YouTube channel. So we're kind of just launching. So this is the first time we're talking about it. And there's a couple videos on there right now that we actually haven't really shared. But then we're going to be getting into a lot more video content soon.
What type of video? Like showing people how to make things or...
Yeah, there'll be, you'll have to stay tuned. We have some fun things planned.
I'm excited.
Lots of surprises.
All right.
Good things to come.
Well, thank you so much, Carly and Mark, for taking the time to share your love story with us, also giving us valuable marriage advice, but letting us learn a little bit more about your business and what's coming up for you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I'm Jessica, and thanks for tuning in today to Love Unplugged, the podcast. If there are any questions or topics you'd love answered on the show, head on over to revueblanc.com and share your request with me. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and share it with a loved one. Your feedback means the world to me, and the community we've created is what fuels our discussions here. After all, this is all for you. Join me next time for another Unplugged conversation.